Russian government this week is reviewing a revised version of its privatization and modernization programs, some of the largest it's done in over a decade. The twin programs are meant to leapfrog Russia into a more modern economy while bringing in quite a bit of cash. The privatization program alone is supposed to privatize 5,000 companies, as well as strategic stakes within 10 to 12 of some of Russia's most important firms. But the expanded plan takes that from 10 to 12 firms up to 20 to 22. Now, anyone who has watched Russia since the fall of the Soviet Union may be wary and pretty dismissive of the word privatization. There have been two major privatization programs before this one, both with their serious problems. The first was right after the fall of the Soviet Union, when it was pretty much a free-for-all for any and all assets, without much benefit to the state itself. This brought in large foreign influence into the country, as well as the rise of the oligarch class. Both of these were seen as threats to Vladimir Putin once he rose into the presidency in the year 2000. One of the first things Putin did as he rose into power was to purge these forces out of the country, its economy, its businesses, and strategic sectors. This left the foreign firms as well as the oligarchs losing pretty much most of their investments that they had put into the country in the previous 10 years. This also left the Russian economy in the hands of the security apparatus, who didn't quite know much about running business, especially large businesses in Russia. The second privatization program took place in 2006, when the Kremlin decided to privatize stakes within 1,500 companies. Now, these firms were really not that attractive, nor were they worth much. And then there were so many rules and regulations that the Kremlin put on it that the program pretty much failed. Instead of the 1,500 firms, only about a third of them were actually privatized. The Kremlin did bring in $18 billion with it, but other than that, there was no real privatization that actually ended up taking place. This time around, things are different. The Kremlin is very serious about actually privatizing and modernizing the economy. This is no longer about the security of the Russian state, as the Kremlin feels it has control. This is also not about getting a quick buck, like in 2006. Instead, this is about actually modernizing and bringing in investment to expand the economy for the future of Russia. Again, the key word here is for the future of Russia. The Kremlin knows that it cannot keep a strong and healthy state unless the economy starts to actually grow strong itself. Russia's thinking about how is the Russian state going to continue to remain strong for the next decade, if not 2 decades. This is where these programs come in. Because of this, the Kremlin has had to bring in actual accountants and economists to plan this privatization and modernization program. These groups have had to devise a plan and create reforms that were needed in order to make the country attractive. Reforms like repealing the cap on investment, revamping the tax codes and laws, actually creating investor protection rights. But this massive privatization and modernization program won't work with just interest. It has to have actual enthusiasm from these foreign groups coming back into the country. The Kremlin needs to be pursued in order to get the best and most strategic deal. Now, are there problems investing in Russia still? Of course. The country is still incredibly bureaucratic, corruption is rampant, and you are still dealing with a security state. However, this time around, the Kremlin is actually offering real stakes in incredibly important and attractive companies. It is offering investment in sectors that are going to be expanding greatly over the next few years. These are things that the Kremlin has never offered before.